नमो विष्णुपादाय नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So one time all together. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna,
कृष्णा हरे हरे
हरे राम
राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा
कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare Ram
Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare
Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare
Jai Jai Shri Radhe Shyam
पादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते गौर गोविंद स्वामिनिति नामिने नमः ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वद्देवं गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादिं पाश्यते देशतारिणे ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकायां चक्षुरुन्मिलितमेन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamakyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikesha Indriyatmane Namaha Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhatatmane Swarga Pavarga Dwaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namaha Namahiranya Viryaya Chaturhotraya Tantave. Hare Krishna. Thank you for having me here today. Very happy to be here amongst many known faces and a few unknown faces as well. So basically, I was asked to speak on how to take shelter of the holy name. That was a topic given to me. I was given 50 minutes. Hopefully, we would be able to justify such an elaborate topic within 50 minutes. Now, one of the things that I wanted to do was we wanted to start and understand through the Bhagavad Gita, because you can go as deep as you want when you want a topic of this kind, when you want to take shelter of the holy names. There are multiple resources that we can touch upon. But given the time constraint, I wanted to keep it as simple as possible so that we could just traverse through the Bhagavad Gita and have an understanding of how things are and how things are to be understood in this process. So the Harinam Chintamani, Sri Harinam Chintamani, which is a conversation between Srila Haridas Thakur, the Namacharya. So our Yuga Dharma is to chant the holy names. So the Acharya of the holy names, the Namacharya, is Srila Haridas Thakur. The conversation between him and Lord Sri Chaitanya is recorded as Sri Harinam Chintamani. It has been commented upon by our predecessors. Specifically, it has been commented upon by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and it's been translated. Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, empowers the Namacharya, and through the voice of the Namacharya, we receive knowledge on the intricacies of the holy name. And in the Harinam Chintamani, right in the beginning, right at the outset, there's a definition of who is a sadhu. And this is very critical for us to understand. We use the word sadhu quite frequently. We use the word sadhu often. In our discourses, we speak about it. We also call each other sadhu in certain ways, sometimes lightly. But what is a sadhu? What exactly is the definition of a sadhu is given in the Harinam Chintamani? So there are two aspects of understanding a sadhu. There is the Swarup Lakshana, which is the primary characteristic. And then there is the secondary characteristic, which is Tatastha. So there is Swarup Lakshana, and then there is the Tatastha Lakshana. So how do you understand a sadhu is dependent on the Swarup Lakshana, and the Swarup Lakshana of a sadhu in our Siddhanta, because there could be many variants and many different definitions, but then our Siddhanta, the definition given by Harinam Chintamani, definition given by Srila Haridas Thakur is, a sadhu is one who has taken complete shelter of the holy names. A sadhu is one who has taken complete shelter of the holy names. This is the definition given in Sri Harinam Chintamani. Yeah? Then we go on and we want to understand further as to what is the meaning of shelter. Is shelter synonymous with surrender. So we want to understand what is the meaning of shelter. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his book Sharanagati, the songbook, at the very outset, at the very beginning, he has given us the different limbs of surrender. The different limbs of surrender are Dainya, which is humility, Atma Nivedana, surrendering oneself, Gopitva Varana, accepting the Lord as one's maintainer, Avashya Rakshibe Krishna, Krishna will certainly protect, Vishwasa, faith, Palana, maintain. So basically, the idea is that there are 6 different aspects of surrender. And the 6 different aspects of surrender, or the 6 different limbs of surrender, are given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Sharanagati prayers. Essentially, humility, surrendering oneself to Krishna, accepting Krishna as one's maintainer, to have firm faith that Krishna will give one protection, to accept activities that are favorable for devotional service to Krishna, and to reject activities that are unfavorable for devotional service to Krishna. So these are 6 different limbs of surrender. Now, we can't really elaborate on all of this within 50 minutes. However, what is very interesting is the next verse in the same song, and it says, Shaddanga Sharanagati Hoibe Yahara, Tahara Prarthana Sune Sri Nanda Kumara. Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, listens to the prayers of one who cultivates these 6 principles of surrender. Interesting. The word that's being used here is that there's a necessity for cultivation. There is a need for cultivation. So one needs to cultivate. There's a need for endeavor, which is what is being spoken of here. Oftentimes, devotees, rather most of us, have a misconception of the concept of Krishna consciousness and the process. The process of Krishna consciousness is assumed to be a very long walk which would last 30, 40 years within one lifetime. And this long walk is supposed to be on a plain field, and we keep walking along with others. This is commonly understood that this is a long walk and you have to traverse many, many years. It's a plain field. It's a plain field. You keep traversing, you keep walking. This is a misconception. A more common and more particular analogy, or I would say particular definition of the experience of Krishna consciousness is not so much walking across a plain field, it is more like scaling a mountain. The scaling of a mountain requires intensification of effort as we go higher and higher. Isn't there a particular force of gravity which is going to pull us down all the time as we go higher? Yes. So this is like that. Our business is not so much traversing a plain field, walking 30, 40 years, and then we're just on a plain field. We're going to cruise along. No. And then we can stop every once in a while and then take a bit of rest. No. Our concept and our position and our process of Krishna consciousness is the scaling of a mountain. And the scaling of this mountain can be over several lifetimes, it can be over a single lifetime. Some of us have scaled quite a bit and are fully aware of the intensity that is required to reach the top and are 100% focused. Some of us are starting at the bottom and they are very happy that they have reached a ledge. Do you understand how a mountain is? A mountain, you climb laterally, you climb vertically, and then you reach a platform, a ledge. And then you take a little breather. You take a little breather, you want to take a deep breath and say that I've reached and I've accomplished something. And then people say that this is where I have reached. Some of us have gone higher, and some of us are still climbing, and some of us are at different levels. Now, this is very important to understand. When we use the word cultivate, it essentially means that there is effort involved. There is, when you're climbing a mountain, if you observe the mountain climber, if you observe someone who is an expert in climbing mountains, he is going to constantly judge his positioning. Very critical. When you're climbing a mountain, you constantly pay attention to where you are, where you're putting your foot, and whether the next footstep is going to be appropriate. This is constant. There has to be a daily inventory if you're climbing a mountain over a 40-year period. If you're going to climb a mountain, which is Krishna consciousness over a 40-year period, there has to be daily inventory as to where our foot is going to be tomorrow, where our foot is going to be today. Is it on firm ground? Or are we on loose rubble where it's going to pull us down? This inventory taking has to be a daily process. It cannot be done whimsically. You can do it whimsically, and you can remain at one level. You can climb, get onto a ledge, and say, I'm here, I'm happy. You can be at one level. There you can be a bit whimsical. But then if you're too whimsical, it could again be a problem. We could drop down. Because a mountain needs to be climbed constantly. So Krishna consciousness is not so much where you reach a level and then you say, you take a breather and say that you have made it. You have to constantly be putting efforts because you're scaling a mountain. If you stop, you're going to be dragged down by the force of gravity. So one has to understand that this is a very special word. It's cultivation. There's a necessity for us to be able to cultivate some of the tenets of being able to maintain our pace. And there's a necessity for constantly intensifying our effort. So there's a constant necessity for understanding where we are. There's a constant necessity of understanding the environment, a constant necessity of understanding our skills, our strengths, our weaknesses. This inventory taking has to happen every day because it's a long haul. We are in it for a long haul. It is not an overnight process. It is not something which is going to last a year. You're talking about 40 years, 50 years, perhaps more if your longevity is quite high. So do not underestimate, or we should not estimate that this is a process which is going to be like a lateral process of walking across the field. Now let's understand a bit more about the process, because sometimes coming back to the basics, honing on the basics, helps us understand things better. So we could tighten and we could move forward in a more determined way. So let's understand the process. For us to be able to understand the process, we will go into a few verses from the Bhagavad Gita, and then we will examine what Krishna is saying. We have three main books. One is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which is our basic book. The Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to approach life. It teaches us how to approach Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam has been written for those who are aspiring for Krishna Prema. Srimad Bhagavatam very specifically has been written for the devotees who are considered to be the servants of Lord Chaitanya. It has been written for those who are cultivating and proceeding towards the goal of Krishna Prema. And for us to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, one needs to understand the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita teaches us how to approach Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna is telling us how to approach him in the Bhagavad Gita. If one understands the Srimad Bhagavatam and starts living on the principles of Srimad Bhagavatam and is motivated by Srimad Bhagavatam, then one gets to live as a devotee. That is seen in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why the Chaitanya Charitamrita is considered to be postgraduate study, because the devotees there have attained the fruit of the Srimad Bhagavatam and are relishing it, and their behavior is not normal. So you can't really jump to the Srimad Chaitanya Charitamrita and then understand it, because it's quite complex. It's postgraduate study because people have digested things and they are there, and their behavior is on the platform of either bhav or prem at a very high level. So if we want to really understand Krishna's intentions, why don't we just ask him? Go to the Bhagavad Gita, because that is Krishna's own words, isn't it? Why don't we understand things from the Bhagavad Gita? So let's understand the process from the Bhagavad Gita, and then we could take it up. Let's first start with 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So Krishna is using a very special word. He is saying tattvataha. He is saying you have to approach me through tattva. You have to have an absolute consideration of my qualities. You have to have an absolute consideration of who I am. You cannot really understand me on a relative scale. You cannot understand me, who I am. I'm like an ocean. If I am like an ocean, how could you understand me if your experience, your scope of understanding is limited to that of a well? If there's a well of water, and our understanding is to the perimeter of the well of water, how can we understand the ocean? So Krishna is saying, you have to approach me through tattva. Tattva essentially means it is an absolute consideration. Where do you find tattva? Tattva is found in Shastra and in the practitioners of Shastra. So Sadhu, Shastra, Guru is tattva. One has to understand through tattva. Then what is the meaning of this verse when Krishna says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving my body, return again. Take his birth again in this material world. Krishna is basically telling us that your business is to cultivate sambandha. You need to cultivate sambandha gyan. You need to cultivate Krishna sambandha, where you understand me, and you understand me and my nature in the transcendental terms. You understand who you are in relationship to me. If I am supposed to perform the duties of a father, I need to establish myself in that role, and I need to understand what it takes to be a father. Without establishing myself in the identity of a father, I really can't be expected to perform the role of a father. Can I? So is the case with a professional who is working in the corporation. If you don't understand your role, you're not going to be executing your duties properly. You're going to flounder because it's not going to work. If you don't understand your role, you're not going to be able to perform it because the role is going to teach you dharma. You see, every identity has its list of duties associated with it. Every identity has its list of what to do and what not to do. And if I don't understand my identity in relationship with Krishna, then I would never be able to understand his activities. I would never be able to understand anything. So Krishna is saying, cultivate Krishna Sambandha. He is saying, cultivate Sambandha Gyan. Cultivate Sambandha Gyan is what is being said in 4.9. He says, understand me. This is Sambandha Gyan. Now the question is, who can give me Krishna Sambandha? Who is it who can give me Krishna Sambandha? There was one special preacher, there's a he's Maharaj, and he mentioned in his interactions with Srila Prabhupada that he said, when you come to the spiritual sky, Prabhupada said this to him, when you come to the spiritual sky, and see, this Krishna Sambandha, Krishna is saying, you have to understand me through tattva, and tattva has to be understood. You have to understand what is an absolute consideration. So let us look at how do we understand tattva. Krishna says you have to have sambandha. There has to be Krishna sambandha. You need to know me. You need to know yourself. If you don't know yourself and you don't know me, how are you going to perform actions? And if you don't know all of that, how are you going to come back to me? Because you don't know yourself. You don't know your duty. So how are you going to do it? So then we are talking about 4.9, which says you need to understand Krishna on absolute terms. Now, how do you understand Krishna on absolute terms? You understand Krishna on absolute terms, and where does Krishna give the clue? He is giving the clue in the same chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. What is that verse? Anybody? Which verse of the 4th chapter in the Bhagavad Gita talks about how to understand tattva? Yes. 434 actually. You're probably close. You just missed the number. Don't worry. Yeah. Tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. So Krishna in 4.9 says, you have to understand me through tattva. You have to understand me through tattva. You need sambandha gyan. You have to understand me on absolute terms. You can't speculate about me. You can't speculate about my nature. You need to understand me on absolute terms. Now, who is the one who can teach us tattva? 4.34 is telling us you have to approach a spiritual master. So, tadviddi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. This verse is saying you have to approach someone who is a tattvadarshi. 4.9 is saying you have to approach me through tattva. So Krishna is particularly saying that you have to approach someone who has seen the truth. Literally. What does it mean when he says seen the truth? when Srimad Bhagavatam tells us, Vyasadeva tells us very clearly that Sri Karanodakashayi Vishnu is lying on the causal ocean. He breathes in, the universes disappear into the pores of his skin. He breathes out, the universes manifest again in the world. Is this believable by rational consideration? It is not. But Srila Vyasadeva has written it in the Srimad Bhagavatam, which means he has seen it. He has seen Sri Karanodakashayi Vishnu with the universes manifesting into his body and then leaving again. He has seen that particular occurrence. He has seen everything in the Srimad Bhagavatam. He is a Tattvadarshi. Sri Vyasadeva is a Tattvadarshi. He has seen everything and he is recording it in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So now you have someone who has seen Krishna in the absolute level where there's no confusion and he is recording it. So when someone has seen something and he's recording it and he's representing it, then there is no question of being false. Does anybody here have any doubts that I'm sitting here and I'm speaking? No one does. Neither do I have any doubts that you are all sitting in front of me because I can see you. So there is direct perception of everybody through our senses. Srila Vyasadeva's spiritual senses had direct perception of the Lord and his pastimes, and they were recorded after such. So there was Tattvadarshan. Tattvadarshan is not a concept which is to be understood in any other way, but is to be understood as someone who is Srila Vyasadeva, who is so qualified that he could see all the pastimes and he recorded it in Srimad Bhagavatam. Have no doubts. Have no doubts. This is exactly how it occurred. It's very important for us to understand. So, we approach a spiritual master in the line of Srila Vyasadeva and who is imparting knowledge. So, Srila Vyasadeva has seen, and after he has seen, he has recorded, he has spoken, it was written. The Shabda Brahman, the potency of speaking Shastra in an absolute sense, without deviation from the Srimad Bhagavatam, carries the potency of the person who has seen such events. The Guru, who comes in the lineage of Srila Vyasadeva, is blessed in such a way that they have realizations of being connected to a Tattvadarshi. When we go and take shelter of such a Guru, his words, Shri Guru Mukha Padma Vakya, the sound vibration, has the ability to enter into our ears and then remove the darkness within our heart because it's an absolute consideration. There's no difference. The Guru speaks, it enters into our heart, it destroys ignorance because the Guru comes in the lineage of Srila Vyasadeva. Do we understand? Shri Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittete Koryakya. Chitta, which is impressions on the Chitta, which is the consciousness. It creates such a solid impression. Nescience is lost, material misconceptions are lost, confusion is gone when such a Guru speaks. So we take shelter. Now, because of the concept, again in Harinam Chintamani, we talk about Bhakti Unmukha Sukriti, which is in reality, unbeknownst to us, we may have engaged in an activity, Agyata Sukriti, unbeknownst to us, we may have engaged in an activity which is favorable for devotional service. As a consequence, we are coming closer to devotional service. So this particular qualification happens that somehow or the other, in our previous lifetimes, we came in touch with a realized soul, we somehow or the other rendered service, and as a consequence, we developed some qualification to move further. Then, the moment we come in touch with the Guru takes his faith. And what is the quality of faith of the Guru? The Guru comes in the lineage of Tattvadarshis. His faith is very high. He takes his faith and he puts it into our heart. How does he do it? He speaks and we hear. The Guru is Krishna in certain ways because Krishna attracts through two means. He attracts through the holy names. He attracts through the vessel of the Guru. He attracts through two means. He attracts us. So the Guru speaks and we automatically feel connected and our faith begins flourishing. It starts developing. And then there is this whole process of bhajana kriya. Adav Shraddha, then there is sadhu sangha, tata sadhu sango, then there's bhajana kriya. It cultivates. Now one needs to understand, where is it that we are going wrong in this particular process? And how is it that we can take shelter of the holy names in a deeper sense as we make progress? Because this is your basic process. Our process is very simple. Our process is come in touch with the spiritual master, take up the holy names, chant the holy names, and at the same time, whatever happens in life, we accept it and act upon it with courage, which is humility, and we're able to move forward. This is our simple process. We'll get into it. Now, what happens basically is, when all of us come in to the Krishna consciousness, where are we? We are defined as being in 7.16. Isn't it? Aren't we in 7.16? I'm just going to read 7.16. Chaturvida bhajante mam, jana sukritino arjuna, artho jigyasu ratati, gyani cha bharata rishabha. O best among the Bharatas, 4 kinds of pious men begin to render devotional service unto me. The distressed, the desire of wealth, the inquisitive, and he who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. So 4 kinds of men. Jai Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar ki. Okay, so 4 kinds of pious men. What does Krishna say? We start here. The distressed. Someone who is in deep distress. They come in touch with Krishna. Someone who is a desire of wealth. They come in touch with Krishna. Someone who is inquisitive. They come in touch with Krishna. And then someone who is searching for knowledge of the absolute. They come in touch with Krishna. This is 7.16. Chaturvida bhajante mam. We all start in 7.16. Either we have experienced a lot of distress and we come in touch with Krishna, or there are some desires and we want to come in touch with Krishna. Krishna says all of this is wonderful. It's magnanimous. But what is the expectation? The expectation is Manmanabha Madbhakto Madhyajimam Namaskuru, which is given in the 18th chapter, where Krishna is saying, ultimately, you would always want to think of me, you would have to worship me, you will have to offer homage unto me. So Krishna is basically defining it. Srila Rupa Goswami is giving us a definition. He is saying, Anya bilashita shunyam, jnana karmadi anavratam, anukulyena Krishna anushilanam bhaktir uttama. So Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, Uttama Bhakti is devoid of fruitive desires. It is devoid of the aspiration for liberation. Gyan is liberation in one sense. Because the Jnani is superior to the Karmi. The Karmi is desiring things in this world. He wants wealth. He wants certain possessions. He wants a comfortable life. He does not want to suffer. Nobody wants to suffer. This is the karma position. Oh, I'm suffering, so I want relief. Or I'm desiring something. This is Karmi. The Jnani has understood that all this business is nonsense. I want to leave this world. He wants liberation. He wants to go above. The Jnani is a shade better. Srila Rupa Goswami is saying, reject these particular aspirations of being a karmi and a jnani. Jnana karmadi anavratam. So 7.16, this is the base of the cliff that you're going to climb. This is the base of the mountain of Krishna consciousness that we are going to scale. How many of us have aspirations for wealth? How many of us have aspirations for relief of distress? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands, but I do want everyone to be very honest. We all have a little adjustments in life. We all have a little aspirations. So please tell me, are we in 18.64 in our pursuit of bhakti, or are we in 7.16? Come on. Yeah, many of us, most of us perhaps, are in 7.16. So the traversing of the journey from 7.16 to 18.646566 is what is expected in the whole process of sadhana bhakti. This is the bottom of the mountain and we are trying to scale it. Now let's understand the complexity. The complexity is as follows. The complexity is that for our process to flourish, there is a specific symptom which is required. Or I would say there's a specific condition which is required for a process to flourish. What is a specific platform that is required for a process to flourish? What is the platform which is required for a process to flourish? Goodness. You need sattva for you to take off. You need sattva for you to take off. Without having the mode of goodness or being in the mode of goodness and having a lifestyle which is mode of goodness, we really can't take off. We can't take off. You can't really expect to go into transcendence if you're not in the mode of goodness. So we need a specific condition. We have a specific challenge. Our challenge is that during the day, we have occupations which are a necessity because we have to pay bills. Money is required because it's a necessity. And we have occupations which are a necessity. And during the day, we are required to exist in passion. Does it make sense? During the day, we are required to exist in passion. In the morning, we chant Harinam, and then we are going into passion. The moment we go into passion, there would be a downgrading of our ability for us to be able to make advancement. Because in passion, when you are in passion, and when you are in an environment which is not designed for Krishna consciousness, when you are in an environment where people who are in that environment are not particularly Krishna conscious, neither are they functioning according to the goals given by our acharyas, they are going to set up aspirations, they are going to set up goals which are completely disconnected. So what happens? So for us to survive, we go to work, we are in an environment which is completely passionate, or perhaps worse in some cases. And as a consequence, we exist there, we tolerate it, but sometimes we develop the qualities of those who are in that environment. Because we are in passion, the problem which arises is passion produces desires. We begin window shopping in the world. We start thinking that we need this and we need that and we need this and we need that. Krishna says in 2.55, what is the definition of someone who is in samadhi, in transcendence? He says there will be no mental concoction. The first and primary quality of one who is in transcendence is zero mental concoction. What is mental concoction? Mental concoction is the sankalpa and vikalpa of the mind. What is considered to be dursanga, asatsanga? What is asatsanga? Asatsanga is the mind. You watch a movie for some time. Many devotees do, thinking they can escape after that. You watch a movie, and after you watch a movie, there are certain illustrations, there's some graphic violence, perhaps things in the movie. All of that sticks to our chitta. And then, after that happens, our mind is still holding on to all those things. And that is dussanga, that is asatsanga. That is asatsanga. In a similar fashion, when we go and immerse ourselves in an environment which is not designed specifically for us to make progress in Krishna consciousness, we, in turn, have the ability to develop qualities which are not conducive for Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. It's a very particular challenge for us. We have to go into passion every day. So it's like an elephant taking a bath. The elephant goes into the water, comes out of the water, puts mud on itself. In a similar fashion, we chant 16 rounds, we do Guru Puja, we worship, we do everything, and then we head out into an environment which is not conducive, and we become passionate. And then once we are in the passionate environment, our whole mode changes. We start desiring things like our peers, like our office co-worker, like our boss. Our boss sets the parameter of what we ought to achieve in life. So there's great danger. There is great danger in the practice of Krishna consciousness in the modern environment. And as a consequence, people go and come back. People go and come back, and they spend many, many years without being able to consolidate and move forward in a substantial way in their consciousness. Then they spend 20 years sitting on top of a ledge in the mountain, struggling because they are now setting up things based on passion, setting up things based on the environment. Please understand, who we are today is what we thought of 20 years back. Who we are today is what we thought of 20, 30 years back. Whatever we thought of 20, 30 years back, it is manifested today in some form or the other. 20, 30 years back, 15 years back, were we all asking for complete shelter of Harinam? How many of us were aspiring for Shuddhanam 15, 20 years back in our lives? How many of us? Very rare. We were not aspiring for chanting Shuddhanam 20 years back, 15 years back. So today our lifestyle is a reflection of desires that existed, which were not designed by the Acharyas. So Sri Tamal Krishna Goswami, when he was giving a class in the Bhaktivedanta manner, he made a mention saying that our process of chanting 16 rounds and following the 4 regs is fairly simple. It's a simple, straightforward process. He said, the issue is that devotees have complicated lives. The issue is that devotees have complicated lives. It is not the process which is complicated, it is that devotees have complicated lives. Why does the devotee life become complicated? The devotee life is complicated because there is no aspiration to set up an environment where we could chant and properly move forward and focus on taking shelter of the holy name. There is no aspiration. What is the aspiration which we need? What is the environment that we need for us to make progress? Number one, first and foremost, we need at some point in the future to be able to disengage from the lower modes. We need at some point in the future to be able to contribute fully to Krishna consciousness. Is that a part of our planning today? Is it a part of our planning that at some point in the future we want to disengage and absorb ourselves fully? We want to be able to contribute fully. We want to be able to give all our time to Krishna and to Seva. Is that an aspiration? It may not be. Our aspiration is not there for us to be able to set things up. Please understand this. Krishna consciousness is a long haul. It's 50, 40 years. If you do not plan for 40, 50 years to at some point in the future lead a life where it is complete contribution to Krishna consciousness, we are going to be in trouble because we would never be able to consolidate our experiences. We are constantly taught in Krishna consciousness to give up sense gratification. Yes? And then there is this particular aspect of Krishna consciousness where Krishna consciousness is sublime. It is fully filled with happiness. Yes, it's a fact. When people say the holy names are sweet, it's a fact. They are nectarian. It's a fact. It is not a metaphor. It's not a description. It's a fact of life that the holy names are sweet. So if someone has not put in a consolidated effort by rearranging their lives, being in the mode of goodness so that they could take advantage of the mode and then be able to lift off higher and higher into Krishna consciousness, they will not taste the sweetness. But they have also been asked to disengage from seeking pleasure elsewhere. This is your definition of a devotee. No sense gratification, no serious chanting. As a consequence, they're in the middle. A middle devotee is unhappy. They're unhappy because they have left everything and then they have not really put in 100% of what is required for them to be able to get to top of the mountain. They are stuck in between. This is the problem. The problem arises in Krishna consciousness when we do not know that you can be stuck in the middle. You could be in the middle of the mountain, you could be at the bottom, you could be sitting on a ledge and feeling very frustrated. It can happen for 20 years. So then you have this phenomenon, I've been chanting for so long. Why has things have not changed? Why is it that I constantly meditate on things which are not connected to Krishna consciousness? This constant meditation is there. This is very important for us to understand. So this is the problem. And how is this problem resolved? This problem is resolved by being able to constantly put ourselves in planning where we could position ourselves in the mode of goodness and take advantage of the higher mode. If we are passionate, then we want to contribute our entire passion to this movement. There's nothing wrong in being passionate because there's a need for passion. It can be used. Prabhupada used to have so many disciples who were passionate, but they did such wonderful work around the world. They used their passion in the service of Krishna, and they were able to elevate themselves. So it's not a question of being passionate. It is a question of lack of planning. It is a question of a lack of direction in terms of what is required for us to be able to consolidate the experience of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness requires the platform of goodness. Plan to simplify. And what is simplify? Because the mode of goodness requires a simple arrangement. The normal devotee aspiration is that we start a career at the age of 25, 26 perhaps, if you're fortunate, and then you continue on till the age of 50, you get promoted, and as you keep going along and you get promoted and you get promoted, your salary increases, you make your small home a bigger home, bigger home, bigger home, bigger mortgage, and then at the age of 50, there's a big bill to pay every month. If you have a big bill to pay at the age of 50, you need passion. You can't do so. You are going to need passion. Does it make sense, devotees? It's a very simple concept. If you want to make things happen, you need passion. And if you have a complicated lifestyle, you're going to need passion. And if you're going to be passionate, it's going to be difficult to chant. So how do you take shelter of the holy names? Taking shelter of the holy names requires that we disengage our mind, which is telling us that you're going to be happy doing this, you're going to be happy doing that, you're going to be happy doing this, that, and ever. This mind is constantly engaging in accepting and rejecting. Accept the principles of Krishna consciousness of how to take shelter. Our acharyas have given us 5 angas, 5 main limbs of devotional service. The first limb of devotional service is sadhu sangha. And sadhu sangha means coming in touch with sadhus who can inspire us to chant. The second principle of Krishna consciousness is namasmaran, to be able to chant and remember. The third principle is Bhagavat Shravan, to be able to come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam on a daily basis. The fourth is to be able to worship the deity. And the fifth is to be able to develop the aspiration and the consciousness of only wanting to live in Vrindavan. This is consciousness. This is consciousness. Basically what is required. These are the 5 aspirations which have been given. To be honest, as a practitioner, I would be petrified, I would be afraid to death to take decisions that cannot give me more and more of the 5 qualities that are required for us to improve. If I cannot really vet my decisions based on the 5 main principles of Krishna consciousness, then I am actually taking a dangerous step while climbing a high mountain. Please understand this. You're climbing a high mountain, and then if you cannot really vet and you can't really isolate and understand whether the step that I'm going to take is going to bring upon me a greater opportunity for Sangha, greater opportunity for chanting, greater opportunity for Bhagavat Seva, greater opportunity for Srimurti Seva, and to also develop the consciousness of wanting to be in Vrindavan, I am going to be actually taking a step which could become a liability. If you really can't isolate your planning, and you can't isolate your decisions in such a careful way, we are paralyzing and we are practically taking dangerous steps in Krishna consciousness. Please understand it. This is black and white. Yeah? Sometimes it's so easy and refreshing just to speak black and white. This is black and white of Krishna consciousness. If you don't plan, and if you don't have a 40-year plan, and if you do not have an idea of wanting to simplify, then things are going to get complicated as they go along. So have this objective. Have this objective. Now, how do you resolve things? Krishna says that in the Bhagavad Gita. How do you resolve issues as they come along? You see, we have our own system. We have our own system. Different processes have different systems. We have our own system. What does Krishna say in terms of resolution in the Bhagavad Gita? He says, Ananyas chintayanto mam, e janaha pariyupashate, Tesham nityabhayuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. So what is Krishna trying to tell us when he says he's going to carry what I lack and preserve what I have? Someone in the audience might want an upgrade of the vehicle. Is Krishna going to give you a vehicle? He says, I'm going to carry what they lack, I'm going to preserve what they have. Someone may be wanting a bigger house. No, normal aspirations, very normal aspirations, nothing extraordinary. Is Krishna going to give you a bigger house? Is that what Krishna is saying in 9.22? Huh? In Good. So this particular verse is directly related to the most important instruction given by Mahaprabhu, which says, Trinadapi sunichena, tarori vasahishnuna, amani namanadena kirtane sadahari. What does the verse Trinadapi sunichena mean? It literally means that you accept life as Krishna's arrangement. This is humility, being able to accept life as Krishna's arrangement. We should endeavor making improvements so that we can do better in the Panchanga Bhakti. But we accept life as Krishna's arrangement, and then we develop the courage to act upon life. This is Trinadapi Sunichena. Trinadapi Sunichena, humility is to accept things that Krishna, you have arranged it for me, and as a consequence, I'm accepting it. I will still endeavor to do Panchanga Bhakti, even if it is complicated. I will endeavor to make sure that I kind of make changes which are going to bring me closer to you. This is Trinadapi Sunichena, accepting things which Krishna have given us and saying, this is life and I need to do it. What is Krishna saying in 9.22? He's giving us a similar message. He's saying, I'll carry what you lack and I'll preserve what you have. Which Krishna, what does it mean when you hear that word? I'll carry what you lack and I'll preserve what you have. It essentially means Krishna has already spoken 5,000 years ago. Don't you think every one of us at this particular minute, Krishna is carrying what we lack and preserving what we have? How many of you agree that this was spoken several centuries back? Krishna is preserving and he's carrying. Yes or no? Yeah. So, life as you see it, life as you visualize it, is exactly how Krishna has arranged it. It is completely the way it should be, because Krishna has arranged it. This should be our understanding. Even though life has not been arranged by Krishna, it has been arranged by our karmic reactions. We first accept that Krishna, you have arranged it. If our life is difficult, you have arranged it. You accept it. And then you act upon it with courage. What is the action which is required? You persevere with the principles of bhakti, even under difficult circumstances, after accepting that you have arranged these circumstances, Krishna. So there must be a reason why you've arranged it, because this is exactly what I need for me to be able to move forward. Does it make sense? At any given time, our life is a snapshot of what Krishna wants us to experience. Even if it is not Krishna's arrangement, if you think it is Krishna's arrangement, it will become Krishna's arrangement. So our process is so sublime and it's so straightforward. Taking shelter of the holy names means literally arranging and rearranging and constantly contemplating on life to rearrange life and accept life so that we could take shelter of the holy names. So if we have an understanding that for me to be able to chant comfortably, for me to be able to chant in the morning, for me to be able to offer everything to Krishna, I need to disengage from what I'm doing, then we plan for it. It may not happen tomorrow, but we plan to make it happen 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, so that this way we would be able to consolidate our experience 15 years, 10 years, 5 years from now. Does it make sense? Why? Because what we were thinking 15 years back is what we are today. If we start thinking we need to have a lifestyle which is going to complement the goals given by our acharyas, then that will also happen 15 years hence, 10 years hence, perhaps sooner. Simplicity is Vaishnavism, is a statement that we often hear. Simplify is a must. If we don't simplify, we are going to require passion to manage. If you have passion to manage, we can't chant. We're going to develop other desires. Does it make sense? So, I'm almost running out of time. So, I have run out of time actually. So, I'm just wanting to kind of summarize, and then we could go on to the next part. We started out by the definition of the Swarup Lakshana of a sadhu. The Swarup Lakshana of a sadhu is one who is completely dependent and has taken shelter of the holy names. Then we started understanding that taking shelter of the holy names is not a very passive activity of somehow or the other waking up and thinking that things are going to get arranged if we just do upon. Passively, it is not going to get arranged. We also have this understanding that surrender is going to require active engagement. And what is that active engagement? We need to understand, just as much as we have a goal, anyone who has a goal should be able to understand how to attain that goal. If I have to attain that goal, I have to position myself in a certain way. If I need a certain quality, a certain lifestyle for me to attain that goal, then do it. That is what is required. So Krishna consciousness is a way of life. You have to change everything to attain this particular shelter of the holy name. So this is the primary message which we want to give, is not so much taking shelter of the holy name, but passive engagement, but it requires active management. Ours is the business of having a relationship with Krishna, which is very active. We are not Shanta Bhaktas, are we? We have a relationship. Krishna is there as a deity form, and we start worrying that Krishna has not eaten, Krishna has not done this, Krishna has not done that. We make all these arrangements. Yeah? So this is the activity that we are supposed to engage in. We are constantly thinking Krishna is dependent on us. In reality, we are dependent on Krishna, but our thinking is Krishna is dependent on us. In a similar fashion, the chanting of the holy names and the process of sadhana is dependent on Krishna's mercy, yes, but we start thinking it is dependent on us, and we do everything as if it depends on us. This is the principle that has to be understood. This is taking shelter in a practical way. If you don't plan, then nothing is going to happen. It's not going to happen on its own. Developing and cultivating desire is very important. Planning is required. There are many here who probably are involved in project planning. If you're in technology, you're in project planning at some level. You've done it. Yeah. And how many people in your corporate life have attained goals without planning? None. So what makes us think that Krishna consciousness is just going to work on its own without planning? Yeah. Life can get complicated if you don't plan. It's very important to understand that we require a certain quality. We go for that goal, and we take step-by-step direction in terms of how to reach there. So I will stop right here, okay? So I probably went a bit over time, but I'll stop right here. So thank you very much. I'm not sure if I have a time for any questions, but if you have any questions, I'm there in the corner. You could always ask me. Is there any time for questions, perhaps? Okay, any questions or any comments, please? Yes, Haribol. Sorry.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
I like this analogy you gave of the mountain that we're climbing, right? I'm still very new in my Krishna conscious, but like I can totally see what you're saying about like you're climbing this mountain and you have to position your feet and you have to be very careful how you're moving. But in terms of that, can we not tend to overanalyze our steps, tend to kick ourselves in the butt a little bit? Like because we're overanalyzing a little bit over our process of spiritualization?
Good question. Is there a possibility that we could just overanalyze and then as a consequence become paralyzed and can't move forward? Well, see, the way yes, there are possibilities of doing either. There's a possibility of not planning at all and not thinking about it and taking a steep fall. There's also the possibility of perhaps not being able to take the proper decision because there are just too many alternatives. And this is where the process of Krishna consciousness also works, is that we have Sangha. We always need higher spiritual association, and we always need mentors who have already taken that step and have gone above where we are, and then we seek their help to see that this is where I am, and this is what I want to accomplish, and as to whether the step that I'm taking, does it make sense to you? So we bounce it off people who have already climbed up. So there is a risk, but there are ways to go over it as well.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Yes, Bible. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. My question was with this analogy of the mountain. Let's say you're between two steps, basically two ledges. On one side, Krishna says that anything you give in devotional service or spirituality is never lost, like the rain clouds. He gives that example in the Bhagavad Gita. But if you're between two steps and you can't make it, do you just slide down back to the last level? Is this analogy similar to the removal of karmas in the heart, or are there levels that exist in this process, I guess? Or is it more like a continuous process, or is it discrete?
Well, if someone says that you're climbing a mountain and I have a net below, that if you slip, I'm going to catch you on the net, it's perfectly fine. But will any sincere mountaineer depend so much on the net, or would he depend on putting in the right kind of efforts? Do you understand what I'm saying? So the whole purpose of giving this session was to say that there's a lot of planning and there's a lot of work that is required for us to be able to move forward. Does it make sense to you? So even if Krishna says that you're going to get second and third and fourth chances, and even if you're going to slip, we would not want to take a chance with it. We would want to move forward, and we want to climb further and further. Yeah. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but perhaps to some extent. Okay, you're nodding. Thank you. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So how do we understand Krishna as an absolute? So all that I know, for example, is relative. I have a relationship, employer, employee, father, son, elder brother, younger brother. So everything that I know, everything that I see is relative. So can you give me a concrete example of what is an absolute?
First, we need to understand the term tattva. Krishna says, understand me through tattva. Tattva directly refers to scripture, and scripture, which is Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., have been written by Srila Vyasadeva and composed by Srila Vyasadeva, who has had a direct perception. So, you as you are an individual are aware of your relationship of your brother and sisters and so on and so forth. Now, you are fully aware because you can see the relationship, you can identify with it, you have acted in it. In a similar fashion, Srila Vyasadeva has had direct perception of Krishna's nature. Jai Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar ki. He has had direct perception of Krishna's nature, and he has recorded all of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, that is absolute because someone has seen the reality of the Lord and have recorded it. So that is why we use the word absolute. It is not a relative consideration. Relative consideration is that, oh, maybe this is so, maybe that is so, maybe it is true, maybe it is not true. That's a relative consideration. An absolute consideration is when someone sees something and then records it. And then we take that as proof. So I was giving you the proof that you don't need proof to understand that I'm sitting in front of you. Neither do I need proof that you are sitting in front of me, because I can perceive you through my senses. Srila Vyasadeva perceived the entire Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna's activities through his spiritual senses, and he recorded his experiences. And since he recorded his experiences, we are taking his word as absolute. So that is the definition of tattva. Shastra is absolute. Sure. I'm not sure. Yes. You just need to wait for a mic.
Is it necessary to be? Is it necessary to have position ourselves in such a way that we are eventually in the environment which is mode of goodness? Is it necessary in order to achieve the goal, or it's optional?
It is not an option. Life should be simple.
Because it's not idealistic to expect ourselves to be continuously in the mode of goodness.
It may not be.
Because material world is full.
True, but then I'm talking about predominated by mode of goodness. I think Maharaj has to give a session. I just want to get out of the way. So if there are any questions, I'll be on the side. I'll be very happy to take those. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Haribol. Can you give one big round of Haribol to Prabhuji for a wonderful lecture? Haribol, Haribol, Haribol. One more time. At 5:30, there's going to be a Nama Yagna. The cost is $51. You can pay at the front desk over here on Mathaji is. It's for the Yagna. All the proceeds will be going to the temple and Radha Shamchandar. All right. I'll give it back to Maharaj now. Haribol.
Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Girivardhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamunatira Vanachadi Jamunatira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Bang, you're dead. Well, that was pretty ecstatic, huh? Children, shh. You want me to try? Okay. Sounds somewhere in between too much and too little. Doesn't really seem just right either. This is a very special evening. So there are some persons that are with us now that weren't with us earlier, and we're sorry for you. You missed a lot of nice topics, but a little review is the theme of the retreat. The holy name is everything, and it's literally true, not just figuratively true. Because Krishna and Krishna's name are not different, and Krishna is the source of everything, and in one sense, he is everything, because he's the source of everything. Everything is his, and he is everything. So Krishna's name is our access to Goloka. We heard a nice song by Narottam Das Thakur Friday evening. Hari Hari Bipale. The holy name comes directly from the spiritual world, Goloka. It's imported, but it's got all the tariffs and everything paid. There's a price. Then the price for the import item of Goloka is faith. But you can have it, just pay some faith, and you've got it. The whole spiritual world is yours, just with some faith and the chanting of the holy name. And it's very powerful. It is so powerful that even Jaghai and Madhai can become free from their unlimited volumes of sins. And we can also, we just have to call out with some feeling for the shelter of the holy name. We heard many nice things. One of the themes I've been attempting to repeat is chanting is according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is more than just making the sound, but it's something that's internal. It's a calling, a yearning, a hankering for being again connected with our eternal relationship with Krishna. I'll just say it differently. That was Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, more or less. Bhakti Siddhanta said it like this: chanting of the pure holy name is not simply using the tongue and the lips and air passing through the vocal cords. He said you can train a bird to do that, or you can make a machine that does that, makes a sound. In Mayapur, there was a parrot they kept on just above the ground floor, the first floor, they call it in India, of the conch building, and where the temple is. And everyone that would pass by would go over and say Hari Bol to the parrot. You know what he would say back? Hari Bol. And then some devotees got the idea they could teach the parrot to say Jai Radhe. So they'd go to the cage and say Jai Radhe, and the parrot would go Jai Radhe, Hari Bol, Jai Radhe. He was trained up. Then one day, actually everybody had left. I stayed around just to see what it's like after everybody leaves Mayapur. It was very different. And there was a big hailstorm. And the hailstones were as big as golf balls. They're really big. And they were coming crashing down, and they were hitting the bird cage, and he wasn't saying Hari Bol and Jai Radhe. It was quack, quack, quack. So you can teach a parrot to make that sound, but that's not what chanting is. Bhakti Siddhanta says, you can make a machine that makes that sound. So chanting is something else. Chanting is when from your heart you call, "Oh, Lord Nityananda, you are the deliverer of the pure holy name, and I'm so unfortunate, I'm unqualified, but you're so merciful. Please deliver the pure holy name." And then he writes, and when that holy name touches the heart, then when you call out with the same lips and the same tongue, that's chanting. Just embellishing what his father had said. So our time together is focusing on that internal, qualitative calling out. We showed that image of Michelangelo, God reaching for the hand, the lipid hand of Adam and giving him the touch of life. So similarly, the life of the devotee is reaching our consciousness beyond the contaminated stage to the pure consciousness that is accessible to us through the pure holy name, removing the contaminations. So then, for that purpose, we started going through the Shikshastaka verse number 1, and we're calling it no. So something's wrong. Something's wrong. Anyway. Gee. Help. It's not going backwards. Oh, there we go. Okay. We covered the first 3 of the 7 parts of Shikshastaka 1. Cheta Darpana Marjanam, the cleansing of Cheta, contaminated consciousness, leaving pure spiritual consciousness. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam, which Prabhupada says in Bhagavad Gita is equivalent to nirvana. And then we heard what comes after nirvana, this Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vidharanam. The white lotus of good fortune expands through the contact of the Chandrika, the moonshine, opening the heart to the process, the immersion in devotional service that's freed now from contamination. And now we're going to cover the final 5. Four, 5, 6, and 7. So starting with number 4, Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. Here's the word for word. Vidya means knowledge. Prabhupada in Chaitanya Charitamrita has translated as of all education. Vadhu means wife, and Jivanam. So literally it's the life of the wife of knowledge or education. So knowledge, when you're engaged in devotional service, according to the Bhagavatam, Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojataha, what happens? Causeless knowledge arises. Janiyati ashu vairagyam jnanam cha. Yad ahaitukam. Causelessly or immediately, as a byproduct, devotional service becomes awakened. That's number 3. Knowledge follows. Causelessly. It's a byproduct of devotional service. So, commentary tells us that these first 3, they address the anartha nivritti stage. There was some discussion in the morning session about unsteady bhakti, and that's characteristic of those first 3. Sins, reaction to previous sins, washed away. The heart becomes filled with spiritual happiness gradually. Then comes this nishtha stage, where the devotional service spoken of previously is now enriched with knowledge of the science of devotional service, just like we saw from that verse, chapter 2, Bhagavatam, canto 1. One's mind and intelligence become fixed, and one's practice becomes steady. So from unsteady, this is describing the stage of becoming steady, Vidyavadhu Jivanam, by the asset of knowledge is guiding our devotional service, intelligence is guiding our activities in devotional service, spiritual intelligence, spiritual knowledge. So the mind becomes steadied, and one's practice becomes steadied. And quickly, from that position, the stage of ruchi, or relishing the name, and asakti, selfless attachment to the object, the name itself. One simply desires to chant, not because there's an obligation to do so. From feedbacks, or like people's experiences during the 64 round day, which is, we're preparing for tomorrow morning. All of what we're doing today is for that. Many times devotees will express that different things may precede, but different experiences then lead to a stage where they're no longer so much counting their chanting or struggling with the mind, but somehow it just happens that the mind is absorbed in the name, and one is being carried by that current of the holy name. Just, I think it was last time I was here, last year, the Japa retreat. At the end, somebody came after the 64 round day. I was preparing for the evening class, and he just burst into the room. He had to talk. And he said, I just had this amazing experience. I want to share it. I've been around Krishna consciousness for maybe 12, 13 years. I've never really gotten to 16 rounds. I know it's my complacency, and I know that one of the things that would help me is if I attended some function like this, a Japa retreat, but it was too far or something or another, and so I decided, look, this one's right here in central New Jersey, I'm going to come. And I didn't have any big expectation. As I said, I haven't even chanted 16 rounds even once before. 3-4 rounds is kind of like tops for me. But I thought, let me try. And initially I was struggling. I was trying, and then I gave up the struggle and just said, I came, let me just chant. And then something amazing happened. I just got lifted up like a feather floating in the air, and it was floating, and it was this most amazing feeling, and it went on and on. And then I started getting a little, selfish about, wow, I'm really up there, and then crash. And then I tried to get back to that place, and I couldn't get back to that place, and I was struggling, and I threw my hands in the air and said, I want to chant 64, Krishna, you do with me what you like. And it happened again, and just was floating, and I've never had an experience like that. So now at least I know that higher consciousness space is available, and if I can just be desirous to be with Krishna instead of in my lazy, complacent mode, I just wanted to share all that. So he didn't come with that expectation, and nor should we. One of the lessons from Japa retreats, this is from Burijan, who's done more Japa retreats than anybody else I know, a little lesson of don't strive for peak experiences. That's advice from an experienced Japa retreat leader. Rather, try to be with Krishna. Try to become more firmly and steadily established in your relationship with Krishna. That's part of the science of bhakti. Be enthusiastic, at the same time patient with whatever Krishna wants to do with you, confident that he's very kind and he'll help you to become pure in ways that he knows better than you know what's required to help you become pure. Anyway, this text number, or excellence number 4, Vidya Vadhu Jivanam, is described by our commentators as, it's describing the Nishtha stage and quickly moves one to Ruchi and Asakti because Bhava comes next. It's really fast in this little range. So Vidya Vadhu Jivanam is the life, literally, of the wife or the young bride of transcendental knowledge. So it's important to remember what we're talking about. It's the name, or Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The chanting of Krishna's name is the life of the young bride, or vadhu, of transcendental knowledge. A result of acquiring devotion through text, or part 3, is that devotees become illumined with spiritual knowledge. It causelessly awakens. Further, chanting matures that knowledge into realization, which in time reveals a devotee's original position in one of the 5 relationships with Krishna. So there she is, Vadhu. And what's Vadhu thinking about? If she's a good Vadhu, she's thinking about her new husband. And so her new husband is the life of this young bride. And so similarly, making this metaphor, the holy name is the life of this young bride of transcendental knowledge. The life of transcendental knowledge is the holy name. That's the message. But it's with a little metaphor neatly packed into it. There's a similar message in the Bhagavatam. That the image here is Narada speaking to King Prachinibhati. It's near the end of the whole canto. It's near the end of this long series of discussions between the two, where Narada is explaining what real education is. Vidya. There it is. Here's the verse, text 29. Because of your foolishness, no, Narada's on his case to the king, you do not know that devotional service is the only way to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You cannot understand this fact. Your only activities should be those that can please the Personality of Godhead. Our education, that's this last line on the screen here, our education should be such that we can become elevated to Krishna consciousness. Of course, that's Prabhupada's rendering of the words. Our education, real education, is that which elevates one to Krishna consciousness, or that your tan matir, your mind is always upon Krishna. Tan is the pronoun indicating Krishna. Tan matir, that's what real education is, or the essence of education. In the purport, Prabhupada writes, devotional service focused exclusively on increasing our attachment to Krishna is the goal of education, as well as the force that drives us forward. Now, we know from Ishopanishad, there's avidya and there's vidya. And the culture of ignorance is something other than the culture of knowledge. And the real culture of knowledge is this one. Attachment to Krishna. So that which helps us become attached to Krishna, that's the real goal of what real education is, and it carries us forward and forward and forward. There's a similar idea expressed in the Atmarama verse, the image on the left-hand side, that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, seated before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is very patiently listening to his, for 7 days, his giving covered explanations of Vedanta Sutra. And after Mahaprabhu gives a very simple explanation of Vedanta Sutra, Sarvabhauma is astonished. I never heard this before. It's brilliant. Can you explain the Atmarama verse? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, well, you're Mr. Super Scholar, why don't you? So he gives long explanation of Atmarama verse. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is asked, can you explain it? And Mahaprabhu says, with the exception of devotional service, all the methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. Ever seen nipples on the neck of a goat? Here's nipples on the neck of a goat. Yeah, there they are, right there. So they look like, but they're not. They certainly can't deliver milk. They look like the thing, but they're not the real thing. They can't really deliver self-realization, although they're presented as methods of self-realization. Therefore, an intelligent person adopts only devotional service, giving up all other processes of self-realization. The real goal of education or knowledge is that which increases one's attachment. So as the vadhu is attached to her new husband, so one who is engaged in cultivation of knowledge should be attached to the holy name, or a symptom that one is advancing in knowledge is that attachment to the holy name comes. Not so long ago, this summer, the New York Times had a photojournalist who spent some time making photographs of yoga practitioners. He selected the auspicious 108 number to take images of, and then interviewed them, people who they took yoga practice as not just a discipline of their life, but something that's part of their spiritual journey. And he describes these people and what their spiritual journey was like. And I don't know if anybody here in this room can do something like this. I know I can't. But I know for sure to do something like this, it requires more than just a supple body. It requires a mind that's very concentrated, because yoga practice requires controlling the mind. Some of you know Prahladananda Swami. And he has, besides his skills in devotion, he has a few other ones. He's really good at astrology, and he's really good at yoga. In fact, he was visiting New York one time, just after having been in London, and he was invited in London to evaluate those who are teaching yoga teachers who teach yoga students. Are they doing their job right? So he then explained to them in a very simple way, here's a way to test, and it had to do, without the detail, it had to do with how well the mind is controlled. Because you can't do yoga teaching without control of the mind. You can't be a yoga teacher, or teacher of yoga teachers. You can't, it's without, so he gave this little demonstration just to show them. It doesn't matter this technique, that technique. It's a principle that has to be there. So here's this young man who's really good at holding his body in a difficult posture. Who knows how long he held that posture? But he's got to have a concentrated mind to do that. Now, what is his mind concentrated upon? And the message we're hearing from Shikshastaka and also from the Bhagavatam is, without fixing the mind in service to Krishna, in the mood of devotion to Krishna, the mind isn't going to stay there. Not only the body can't hold that posture for too long, but the mind can't stay there. There's a message in the Bhagavatam that says that specifically. This is Shukadeva Goswami explaining to Maharaj Parikshit about the process of chanting the holy name. It's in relation to the Ajamila story, but the verse goes like this. Oops. Where'd it go? Well, I know what it says. It says that any of these elevating activities that lift consciousness and bring the mind to a position above the contaminated lower modes of nature consciousness will not endure. It's not sustainable, because the mind, being contaminated by the modes of nature, the mind will come back again. So what's needed is that which will eliminate, what we heard earlier, Chaita Darpana Marjanam and Bhava Maha Davagni. The holy name alone can achieve this. These other yoga practices cannot. Similarly, another one of the photojournalist's work, peaceful setting, you can practically hear the movement of the spring, the little lake moving by him, the flow of the river. Very peaceful setting, not too hot, not too cold, on a flat rock, deep in meditation. But again, meditation on what? Bhakti process, or Bhagavad Gita's teaching, is manmana, fixing the mind. So this fixing the mind on Krishna is best made possible by the chanting of the holy name. Here is Prabhupada teaching something similar. This is from the devotional service chapter of Lord Kapila's teachings. It's a transcription of a lecture. The simple thing is that you can chant Hare Krishna. But if you think yourself very learned, thoughtful man, you may want to understand through science and philosophy. All right, come on, we have got books. Learn it. 2 ways. We've got 36 books for you. You cannot finish even in your whole life. Come on. Otherwise, if you are not so learned to read all these books, chant Hare Krishna. 2 things are there. Take advantage, any one of them, and be liberated. So the process of reading goes well with the process of reading, because when the heart becomes cleansed through chanting, then one can understand more readily the message of Scripture. Just having some discussions with some devotees a while ago, this afternoon, and that's exactly what they were saying. Their experience from chanting is they can now more deeply understand the messages they're reading from Bhagavad Gita and other texts. One helps the other and vice versa. And the goal of the knowledge is the holy name. The goal of the holy name is to awaken from within this knowledge of our relationship with Krishna. And then comes this bhava stage. Anandam buddhi vardhanam. We know the meanings of these terms. Ananda is bliss, ambudhi is ocean, and vardhanam is increasing. So this is the bhava stage, where waves of spiritual emotion splash within the devotee's heart. It's nice sound, but that's what happens. In this stage, ecstatic emotions have not fully matured. The fully matured stage is the prema stage, but such stage of development that material conditions, the external circumstances, become irrelevant, because the contaminations of heart have been eliminated, material conditioning uprooted, so bhava awakens and proceeds, and eventually, or quickly, comes to the prema stage. So there's an image of the ocean, and that's the meaning of this word ambudhi, the ocean. But we're speaking of the ananda ambudhi. So imagine an ocean of ananda. One gets access to that through this stage. As I mentioned, this is a little map of how to get to the fullness of the gift of Mahaprabhu. And Radharani, she's Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Same word, Ananda, but she's the Chinmaya Rasa. She's the essence of that Ananda Ambudhi. So we're contacting her through the chanting of the holy name, particularly at this stage. That ananda that one feels is by her mercy. And then there's the counterpart, the Maya potency. Two things. One, we're marginal living entities. So we're either under the influence of Maya potency or the internal potency. And the Maya potency is simply a reflection of that internal potency. There's this nice description in the pastime of Krishna's appearance that we hear every Janmashtami. The seventh child of Devaki was Balaram. Balaram was transferred by Yogamaya from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini and took birth as the son of Rohini, Rohini Nandana. But this service was done by Yogamaya. Krishna called Yogamaya. Please come and help. Yes, yes. Some service. What is it? Anything. Please transfer this child from the womb of Devaki to the womb of Rohini. And after you have done so, next service, you take birth in the womb of Yashoda, while I will take birth as the eighth child of Devaki. Then the next service is, I'm going to ask Vasudeva to transfer me to the side of Yashoda and have you brought back here to the prison house of Kamsa. And then your next service is, he's going to try to kill you, but of course, you're my internal potency, so he can't kill you. And then after that failure, your next service is, you'll be spread throughout the land, known by various names of the external potency, starting with Durga. And he's speaking to Yogamaya. One potency, called by different names depending upon how one regards the Supreme. One sees that potency in a different way. Mahamaya and Yogamaya. Yes? There's another very nice reference in this connection. It's where the gopis, they want young gopis, very, very young, they want Krishna as their husband. And so they decide to undergo a very difficult and pretty intense for little girls especially, vrata, Katyayani vrata, in the coldest month of the winter. Who's been in Vrindavan in the month of January? In the summer, it's too hot. In the winter, very cold, especially at night. So during that coldest month, a whole group of gopis took a vow. Before the sun would rise, they'd go to the bank of the river Jamuna, icy cold, and they would worship Katyayani because they were poor. They didn't have any nice material, so they made a Katyayani deity of mud. Worshipped Katyayani, decorated with flowers and incense and things, and then immersed themselves up to their neck in a freezing cold, just imagine it, river Jamuna water, before the sun would come up. Cold. So their worship of Katyayani is described by our acharyas. They were worshiping the internal potency, because these are pure devotees. They're not interested in the external potency. They were worshiping the original Yogamaya feature of Katyayani. And to illustrate this, there's this nice reference from Narada Pancharatra. I'm going to read it, it's so intricate, where the Shrutis and Vidya are having a conversation. It's way up there. Here's the conversation. The Lord's inferior potency, pictured here, known as Durga, is dedicated to His loving service, the Lord. She's the external potency or inferior potency of the Lord. She worships Him. She's dedicated to Him. Being the Lord's potency, this inferior energy is not different from Him. There is another superior potency whose form is on the same spiritual level as that of God Himself. Simply by scientifically understanding this supreme potency, one can immediately achieve the supreme soul of all souls, who is the Lord of all lords. There is no other process to achieve Him. That supreme potency of the Lord is known as Gokuleshwari, the goddess of Gokula. Her nature is to be completely absorbed in love of God, and through her, one can easily obtain the primeval God, the Lord of all that be. This internal potency of the Lord has a covering potency known as Mahamaya, who rules the material world. In fact, she bewilders the entire universe. And thus everyone within this universe falsely identifies himself or herself with the material body. The Lord's power of illusion. And how to get out of that power of illusion? There's only one way: when having proper regard for the Lord of that illusory potency, and that's the proper regard for the holy name of Krishna. And then the internal potency, or the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency, is what one is placed under the care of, Srimati Radharani. This Yogamaya potency, this is an image of Yogamaya, found, those of you that have been to Vrindavan, you recognize, at the Vangshivat, one of the places where Krishna performed rasa dance. There's this image of Yogamaya, the internal potency that gives entrance into Krishna's rasa dance. And she has many arms. So she takes that form depending upon our regard for Krishna. So our entrance into this has this exalted realm of Gokul is through the agency of Gokuleshwari. We have to have proper regard for her. Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains similarly. That person is a true preceptor, or a true father, a true mother, and a true friend also, only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. Similar to the Kevalastakam song that we sang, we all sang together on Friday evening. This is our theme, the holy name of the Lord is everything. So one who is the teacher to give teachings must give this. This is the true teacher. The holy name of Krishna is everything. Anandam Bodhivardhanam, it increases the ocean of transcendental bliss. So now it reviews. As much as the heart is relieved from unwanted habits, that's Cheta Darpa Marjanam, to that degree we become devoted to Krishna. As much as devotion is firmly fixed in our heart, to that degree we acquire realized knowledge, Vidyavadhu Jivanam. And as much as the heart is illumined by both devotion and knowledge, to that degree we taste spiritual happiness. In this way, the ocean of bliss swells. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us everything. He gave us the name and the steps and the necessity of going step by step to experience the fullness of that holy name's gift. So, Prati Padam, Purna Amrita Asvadanam. Prati Padam. Padam is step. Prati Padam. At every step. Full nectar. It gives us a taste. Asvadanam. So there's one kind of nectar, the somarasa nectar, that was produced from the churning of the milk ocean. There's Mohini Murti. As the demons are very anxious for the Amrita, she just asks them for the Amrita so she can give it to the demigods, and they do that. But Somarasa is a different kind of Amrita. There's this Amrita that reinstates one in one's position in the spiritual world. Purna Amrita. And by that Purna Amrita, that full nectar, that's again being established in our relationship with Krishna. That devotee Gopa Kumar certainly looks very happy. More than very happy. Transcendentally happy. And everyone is happy for him as well. And how did he get there? From chanting his mantra, his Gopal mantra. Similar language is used to describe the 6 Goswamis. Prema Amrita, Ambho. Same this word, Ambho, Ambho Nidhi. The 6 Goswamis were immersed in this Purna Amrita or Prema Amrita, an ocean of Prema Rasa. That's their position, and notice there's something similar that they all have. They have a bead bag, and they're absorbed in chanting of the holy name. In Sanatan Goswami's Brihat Bhagavatamrita, same language is used. Dearer to the Lord than even his own beautiful form, his easily worshipped holy name benefits the entire world. Indeed, nothing is as full of nectar as the holy name of the Lord. And the authority for that statement is the Vaikuntha Dutas. They know, they're there, they have that consciousness, and they're sharing that consciousness with Gopakumar and thus with us. So, Anandam Bodhivardhanam. In Rupa Goswami's language, from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, or Nectar Devotion, this prema stage is so, there's so much full in happiness that the happiness of liberation is totally unattractive. It derides even the conception of liberation. Here's what it says in Padyavali, quoted. This is a writing of Rupa Goswami. O Lord, is your impersonal spiritual effulgence not always present everywhere? Even so, it has not been able to break even a single small leaf from the tree of repeated birth and death. On the other hand, the moment your holy name is taken by the tongue, it thoroughly shatters the tree of birth and death down to its roots. Of these two, that is, the spiritual effulgence or the holy name, which should be served? Padyavali is a compilation of verses or statements, many from scripture, some from authors, some even from unknown authors. This one is by Sridhar Swami. And here's what Rupa Goswami writes to describe the same thing in Nectar Devotion. If the happiness of becoming one with the Supreme is multiplied by 1 trillion-fold, it still cannot compare to an atomic fraction of the happiness derived from the ocean of devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj says in Hari Bhakti Sudodaya, with his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev, my dear Lord of the universe, I am feeling transcendental pleasure in your presence and have become merged in the ocean of happiness. I now consider the happiness of Brahmananda to be no more than the water in the impression left by a cow's hoof in the earth compared to this ocean of bliss. So we're almost done. with these excellences, and then we'll do a summary at the end. From Chaitanya Charitamrita, pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens. And many things, back to this knowledge or education, many of the things that we learn in education, it's something from outside, and our skill is we import it from the outside, fasten it to our hardware over here, and then we're asked some questions and we can say it back. Or combine this software with that information, that software, put it together and come up with something creative. And that's our education. But it's something outside that we're bringing inside. And that the important message is, this isn't like that. It's not from some other source. It's already within us. And purification, chanting and hearing, awakens that which is already within us, and it comes out in a natural way. Pure love for Krishna. Pratipadam at every step. If we perform Nang Sankirtan with love, we will see Krishna, either internally or externally, at every step. That's the message here. Pratipadam Purnambas. Taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. There's 3 places where I visit that they have a big photo. This is Prabhupada in Germany. And this smile of Prabhupada has everyone like radiating happiness. There were times when he was grave and times when he was like this. When devotees finally achieve the perfection of chanting, they taste the full nectar of loving devotion to Krishna, a nectar that makes the bliss of liberation seem insignificant. And the last, sarva, atmasnapanam. Snapanam is taking a bath, and atmasnapanam is you give your soul a bath, kind of like a summary of all the other ones. And it's for everybody. It gives a cooling effect to everyone. Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chanting frees conditioned souls of the illusion of identifying themselves with their body and mind, and establishes them in the cleansed and cooling reality that they are eternal spiritual entities. Of course, one could put that in an earlier sequence, but it's all around cleansing, purification experience beyond the dualities of material existence. Param vijayate, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. Vijayate, let there be victory. So, very shortly we'll be having a Nama Yagya, and the Nama Yagya is part of our whole experience of a Japa retreat, taking shelter of the holy name, as we've been saying, the advent of Nama Sankirtan. And side by side with the Nama Sankirtan, it's the essence is the name, whether it's musically chanted or collectively chanted in the way that we'll be doing shortly, or as we'll be doing tomorrow, chanting Japa together. And it's, I've spoken with some devotees that they have not chanted 16 rounds, they have not chanted 64 rounds. Some have chanted 64 rounds and are planning to chant 2 times 64 rounds. Let's see if that happens. So this isn't a competition. This isn't a material thing. Hey, I did so many. Oh, wait a minute, I did so many. It's not like that. It's what does it mean to take shelter? Adequately wise to reach out the one opportunity to experience Goloka, to experience Krishna in his fullness, in the form of his name. That's the opportunity we're being given. And according to the desire that Krishna reciprocates with us, that's what our experience is going to be. And sometimes it's fellow last year floating. I just never had that, maybe he'd never had that experience again in his life after that. But whatever Krishna wants. Sometimes it can be a struggle. Sometimes it can be some of both. But whatever Krishna wants, let our reaching from our side, two things. From our side, extend our consciousness towards the name and take shelter there. Because that's our permanent shelter, and everything else is far from permanent. And in that shelter of Krishna, he can do with us whatever he likes. We have our idea of what we would like him to like, but he'll do whatever he likes. And that's our place of shelter. That's our relationship. And gradually, the spiritual identity becomes more prominent, and the misidentifications with the temporary start to fade, at least progressively over time. And maybe some of you will experience some very wonderful such experiences tomorrow. But whatever it is, let the purification and the contact, the connection with Krishna become strengthened during the course of your chanting tomorrow, and that giving you the strength to go forward with improving your chanting, going over the next period of time. That's what we're here for. Okay, so any comments or questions? We can turn the light on. Thank you. Somebody has the microphone? He's got the microphone? Oh, got it. Comments or questions, anybody?
Maharaj, I was thinking about the process of purification and change of consciousness after, incessantly chanting the holy name. My thought goes to that everybody is born with a psychophysical nature.
If anyone's what?
Everyone is born with a psychophysical nature.
Yes.
And there is some attitudes a person carries.
Yes.
So in my observation, seems like, after many years of chanting, that external attitude doesn't seem to change. So
why not?
Sorry, Maharaj?
Why not?
Okay, so
is that what your question going to be?
So the question is, yes, how to perceive the change of consciousness? Does it manifest in change of attitude always, or externally the person may remain the same, but internally the purification is happening?
Well, I can easily respond to what I think you're asking, but I'm not sure what you're asking. So can I ask again what you're asking?
So
you want to know what are the symptoms that we're advancing? By what symptoms can we know that we're advancing?
Yes, and also would it reflect in the attitude of a person?
Of course. Oh, qualities and character. When there's not transformation, then we're not advancing. What do you think?
Yes, Maharaj. Just thinking how to perceive that transformation.
How to perceive it? Well, the qualities and character.
So then should one, even though one may be chanting, but should there be a desire for transformation, and only then transformation will happen, otherwise it will not?
What the desire doesn't have to be transformation. Like one of the slides said, a byproduct of the holy name is that one can become fearless, but that's not an objective. I mean, it can be an objective. Somebody is fearful, and I don't want to be fearful, so they take shelter of Krishna to become free from fear or fear less or less fearful. That can be a motivation, but that's not, that's the cart. And the horse has to pull the cart, not the cart pulls the horse. So we won't become fearless unless it comes from Krishna. So if it comes from Krishna and we become fearless, then if we haven't taken shelter of Krishna, he's our order supplier, then that fearlessness may dissipate and we're back again into a fearful position. But if we take shelter of Krishna, then fearlessness is part of the package. You follow? And so it's one of those classic questions, when we're engaged in devotional service, there are places where Prabhupada says, you don't need to try to develop qualities, you just need to develop Krishna consciousness. And the qualities will come. But part of Krishna consciousness, the horse that's pulling the cart, is I want to come before Krishna, and Krishna smiles. And I know one of the things that Krishna smiles is these qualities, because he describes it in chapter 12. So on the strength of the horse, let me cultivate this quality. Let's say humility, or tolerance, or forgiveness, or simplicity, or some other nice quality, because Krishna will be pleased. But I can't develop that. Krishna can decorate that quality if he sees there's some purity, there's some sincerity in this devotee, so he'll decorate you or a devotee with a certain quality, and then Krishna will smile. Oh, how nice. But it's his quality. He put it there. He's reciprocating with his devotee. So part of the difficulty of not, which usually is the question, why not? Your question is, what are the symptoms by which we can evaluate? But if we're still in the doership mentality, that's not devotion. I'm going to develop this quality. I mean, it doesn't mean we don't strive, but we have to put the horse first. To please Krishna purpose. And then it's permanent. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati kinchana sarvayar ganesh tatra samasate sara. For one who has become a devotee, that devotee becomes decorated, and who is the decorator? Krishna. That devotee becomes decorated with all the good qualities of the devotee. You know the verse. So, bhakti then pleases Krishna, who then decorates his devotee. So if we're not being decorated with devotional qualities, we have to go back and do a check on how we're engaging in our activity. Is it in a devotional mood or some other kind? Have we pulled the anchor, or do we still have the anchor in it? As we're endeavoring. The anchor being, I want to be the enjoyer. We had this nice little discussion about chanting, and the devotee was sharing that it's all about me and my chanting and my voice, and I'm at the center, and I'm in this selfish consciousness. Fantastic realization. Then how do you move it from there? Then Krishna consciousness, not. And the measure is detachment and knowledge. And knowledge, we know what knowledge is. It's all about qualities, isn't it? Chapter 13, text 8 through 12. These are of knowledge, and it's all qualities. It's all qualities. Knowledge. And the life of the wife of knowledge is the holy name. That's how we're taking shelter of the holy name. So how's your chanting? We can greet one another. How is your bhajan? How is your chanting going? How is that helping you to develop the qualities that you wish so that you can advance in pleasing Krishna? That's how that devotional service, chapter as devotional service, that's how the chapter ends. These are qualities that please me. Is it clear?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Back here. Put your hand up, please.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So my question was, in Sikshashtakam we say, you can, what is it? You can crush me or you can do anything you like. That verse that comes in. So in advanced stages, a devotee would understand what by crushing or anything of that sort. But my question is from the neophyte side, who has come towards Krishna because he has the kind of love and affection towards Krishna. I mean, in Bhagavad Gita, we have the 3 kinds of people who are coming. So if I'm talking about a neophyte who's coming from the
4 kinds.
Yeah, the 4 kinds. So if I'm talking about the people who come to Krishna out of frustration with the material miseries, so when they hear this verse, so how do they understand, saying that, whether they'll be peaceful or they'll be crushed because of the purification process? So how do they understand, or how do we make them understand that particular verse?
I think I understand your question. You got your, the preamble is a little confusing. What is happiness? How to help them is explaining what is happiness.
Something similar, yes. Yes, Maharaj.
So if someone honoring you is happiness, you're setting yourself up for misery. Because this is a world of duality, and sometimes there's honor and sometimes dishonor. That's not what happiness is. What's real happiness? So you can help them understand by, regardless of the feature of duality, happiness is from within. Now, whether they'll be able to understand that, your question was, how do I make them understand? You can't make anybody do anything, but you can help them see what real happiness is and what it isn't. I mean, I didn't hear all of what Sri Vrindavan was saying, but I heard some of it, and there's the false sense of happiness in things that are temporary, and that's not what happiness is. There's no real shelter there. Just send him to Sri Vrindavan and he'll straighten him out. Right? The persons that misunderstand, I was not honored properly, I'm unhappy, just send them to Sri Vrindavan and it'll help them understand. You're talking about what real shelter is. So that's all. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'm teasing Sri Vrindavan. And he is part of our relationship. Yes. Could you bring the microphone up front here? While he's doing that, somebody sent me this little story about Saint Francis of Assisi. Have you heard his name before? Assisi is a city or a place in Italy. He's one of the saints in the Roman Catholic Church, and he had an assistant named Leo. Leo kept a journal or a diary or something, and Leo is asking or his hearing from St. Francis. They're going for a journey from place A to B, and St. Francis is describing what the expectation for happiness is really misery, and giving this example, that example, the other example. There's no real joy in the temporary material world. There's no happiness and joy here. So then Leo asks, well, what is real joy besides what it isn't? And St. Francis's reply is, we're going to visit a monastery. And in the course of visiting the monastery, it turns dark, and there's sleet and cold and wind. And we come to the gate of the monastery. We're very, very cold. And the man at the gate asks, who are you? We say, we're one of the brethren in a fellow monastery. And the man says, no, you're not. You're thieves. Get out of here, and slams the door. Therein lies great joy. And Leo is going, what? And then he went on and says, and then the next morning we go to the gate and say again, no, gatekeeper, the sun has come up, we're very cold. Can you at least give us something to eat? We'll go back to our own monastery. And he said, no, you're thieves. Get out. I'll call the police, and slams the door again. Therein lies great joy, because one knows that the words spoken by the man at the gate was somehow meant for our purification. The will of providence was speaking through the gatekeeper for our becoming humble and peaceful and filled with the joy of the shelter of the Supreme Lord. Now, that's not our tradition, but it's, it's expressing the words. Shikshastika 3. We're still in Shikshastika 1, though. Yes?
Guru Maharaj, my question is on the elephant's bath we discussed in the afternoon and the morning. Elephant taking bath.
Yeah.
But from the point of Krishna and the disciplic succession, the acceptance is there. Even like at the time of accepting, we were in rotten condition than taking a bath. So that's not even a question. So this purification that comes through the chanting.
Purification what?
That comes through the chanting.
Comes through chanting, okay.
When it is mixed with like some selfishness or some me conception, it is a key. So what is the real purpose of purification? Like, how do I reciprocate with that descending mercy?
How do you reciprocate with purification? That's your question?
How do I reciprocate with the descending mercy through the purification that is coming?
I don't understand your question. How do we reciprocate with loving service? How do we... we reciprocate with loving service. Whether the experience is this feature or that feature, another feature of arrangements for us, we reciprocate with remaining steadfast and faithful and loving in our service. Anything?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Okay. I'm a little disappointed with the ladies this evening. Was something too much prasadam, or what happened? Let's see what happens. Okay, go ahead.
On the point of Vidyavadhu Jivanam, that the holy name is the life of wife of knowledge. So there the wife is essentially the knowledge.
Yes.
But when we read it, it sounds like the wife of knowledge, which is detachment. That's what is being brought forth.
No.
But we are talking about knowledge being the wife of the holy name. So I'm just wondering, like, what is the significance of the knowledge being the wife of the holy name?
Well, my understanding may not be right. My understanding is it's poetry. And the poetic image is there's the holy name, and the holy name awakens devotional service, and devotional service awakens knowledge. So the knowledge is like the wife of the holy name. That you've brought in detachment, that's something else, maybe co-wives, but there's knowledge that's the byproduct of devotional service. So she is like the wife, or the Shakti of the name. And the name is the life of her. So say it in reverse, real knowledge is devotional service, or that which increases attachment to Krishna. And particularly for us, it's the holy name. What is that devotional service that there isn't attraction for hearing and chanting topics about Krishna? What is that way of life? So, for answer to your response to your wife's questions, that's one of the symptoms of advancement is enthusiasm, eagerness to hear. And then the eagerness to hear is symptomized by the application of what we heard, knowledge that's applied, which then results in nice qualities, knowledge that's applied. Krishna sees and Krishna decorates. Okay? Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. When devotees get together to glorify Krishna by hearing and chanting, will that also give more purification than just simply chanting to ourselves?
When the devotee takes shelter of hearing and chanting, then what?
Together, coming together and glorifying Krishna through hearing and chanting, in their association, do we get more purified than chanting alone?
Do we get more purification in chanting together than chanting alone?
Yeah.
That's your question? Well, some of both is nice. When there is opportunity for hearing and chanting together, we should take. But it's not to say, well, if that's better, then I'm never going to be alone, because you can't decide that. Or there's sometimes this and sometimes that. It's by nature's arrangement. So I would say being contented in either situation is better than both. Okay. Yes, we have a question in the back. Looks like we're ready for Kirtan. I hope our Kirtan ears are ready. Go ahead, all the way in the back.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. I don't have a question, but I just like to know, what is your favorite pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu?
My favorite pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
So I'm just asking.
I don't have one. There's too many.
So I'm asking in the context of to hear from you, so that we will feel inspired to chant for tomorrow's doing 64 rounds. Just to get some
Well,
boost.
my mind is being flooded with favorite pastimes.
Anyone is fine.
But I'm not going to say this is my favorite pastime. I'm not going to go in that trap. I'm sorry. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's first meeting with Lord Nityananda is very wonderful. They're described as brothers, but they're transcendental brothers. They're not biological brothers. And Lord Nityananda was some years older, 12 years older than Mahaprabhu. And he was born in a family some distance away, in Ekachakra. And he left home when he was just young. And he traveled to holy places and so forth and stayed in Vrindavan. And he was waiting, transcendentally waiting, for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to leave behind his scholarly pastimes and enter into his devotional pastimes. And when that happened, transcendentally omniscient Lord Nityananda, he left Vrindavan and came to Navadvip. And there's a very beautiful and detailed description of Mahaprabhu describing he had a dream, what his dream was like, a golden chariot and this effulgent person, and very soon a wonderful personality is going to be coming. And anyway, when the details and details and details, but when they saw each other, of course they're eternal associates, but when they saw each other, they just embraced and fell in ecstasy, swooning in ecstasy, seeing each other, and the whole series of pastimes. So they're eternal associates, but meeting for the first time after long separation. Just the ecstasy of that is nice to meditate on. Two lords meeting for the first time, a pastime, after long separation. So many nice pastimes. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Go, no, just do it.
Hare Krishna, everyone. I'd like to request everyone to stay, because in a few more minutes there will be Nama Yajna and more Kirtan. And if any of you would like to make any last-minute sponsors, go to the registration desk. And if you have already sponsored, you can go to the Yajna area. Haribol.
Again, tomorrow, it says in the schedule, but we'll request you to please observe silence, Mauna Vrata tomorrow, which means from Mangal Arti, after Mangal Arti, you can have a conversation with your bead bag, but not with others, of course, unless you're a parent and help your child do something or other. And then when we break for prasadam, same Mona Vrata and the schedule for the day. And you'll find, by observing that, it helps concentration. When you control the tongue, it helps concentration. So please observe that tomorrow. And another, from experience, our cooks know this already, but don't eat a big breakfast. Whatever you normally have for breakfast, make it less, because then it'll be easier to stay the whole distance, because we're not used to chanting all day long. We're used to other activities. So go a little lightly in the meal department, particularly breakfast, but also lunch as well. I hope our cooks don't mind that one. Hare Krishna.